Hello, Ben, and welcome to the Show Up and Lead series. Again, I'm very privileged to be interviewing you, and today we're going to gain some insight into your perspective on leadership and how you lead the actual Podwave studio.
Oh, thank you, Nancy. It's essentially our third recording in a sense, isn't it?
It is. So tell us a bit about yourself.
29, run Podwave Studios, co-director with my business partner, Ray Mancini. We've also got a growing and young team and approaching sort of our 3-year birthday later in the year. But that's us, bread and butter. We just make and help people express stories and capture it.
Okay, so in the work that you do, you're leading people. Tell us a bit about your philosophy of leadership and how you grow and support the people that you lead.
Coming from a sports background, I've always very much been that you can't do everything on your own unless you're doing a solo sport. But even then, you've got coaches, you've got staff, you've got everyone to help you be the person you need to be. And because of that upbringing and background, I've always found that my objective is it's always done better when you've got good people that you lead by example and that you win as a unit. Otherwise, you can win on your own, but it's never as fun. And I think intrinsically, a lot of people like goals and winning and getting to that next objective. So everything that I've done here and continue to do is, well, what have I done in my sporting career? How have I won? I've always done alongside mates and brothers and sisters and anything. So I want to apply that in everything that I do in day-to-day business because I just find there's so many synergies between those two. And
you have lots of people that you're leading, okay, in the workplace. And I know there are some who are paid and there are some that you're mentoring and coaching. So tell me specifically, what is it that you hope to impart in terms of their growth and development? Because it's not just the technical skill, is it?
Oh, personally, I was always sort of inquisitive to just ask for help and ask a question, and that, roundabout sense is what podcasting is, always asking a question and hopefully getting the answer. So everything that I do with anyone that comes through the door, I'm always just happy to have a chat and see where it goes because I find that, and you use the off-air, pay it forward, I'm just happy to help people. And if it could be just a little moment that they take that away and they go, I'll apply this in my day-to-day. I've had students cut back since and say that there was this little moment that they had during that 4 to 6 week period or even over a week. And they go, I always remembered this. They haven't absorbed anything else, but that's what they take away. I'm pretty chuffed to know that and understand that. Because I was always super enthusiastic whenever I got a chance to catch up with someone potentially older and more experienced and learn from them. And any sort of opportunity or door opening moment, I'd sort of try and barge my way through because those do happen and they happen quite frequently. But unless you're adept at taking it, then nothing's really going to happen for you. So everyone that reaches out to me, I try and get back to them. I'll try and get a coffee. I'll at least impart some sort of wisdom because at the end of the day, the worst thing that's happened is I've caught up and had a conversation, and there's no harm in that.
So tell me more about, you see lots of recordings of podcasts and people talking. Is there anyone who stands out in terms of the work that they do in the leadership space, and someone that you'd like to emulate in what you do? I know, tough question.
It is.
Right?
I'm not going to say the cliche, which is that's a really good question.
Because it's a good one.
Yeah. See, I'm quite horrible with names. That's my other issue.
Share what they do.
I quite enjoy one of the podcasts we've done for a long time, and it was one of my first leadership podcasts. It's the Hearts and Minds, Ivan Gecko. And David Bilby, the host, he's quite a deep thinker. He's a top-level recruiter. And he sort of was talking about The Art of War and the book. And I'd never really made a purchase after listening to a podcast, but it kept coming up. And I subsequently went and bought the book because of the way that he had some high-functioning leaders on the episodes. And I was doing a lot of editing when we first took over that show. And I remember purchasing the book going, I've done this because of the way that he's had these conversations and talked with his guests. The funny side of it is, and I spoke with him afterwards, is I bought the same book he did, which was the paraphrased, very much military book instead of the leadership-orientated one. So when I did get it and I sort of read through a few pages, I was like, it kind of felt like a bit of a kid's book in a sense that it was a few sentences and then it was all of a sudden the next chapter. So I haven't yet bought the other one, but I remember that was a moment for me where I was like, I've made a decision because I absorbed something and I was there for hours and I was like, okay, like clearly there's something in this that's being echoed by all the leaders that they've had in that are running top ASX listed companies, and it's clearly impacted their leadership. So maybe I should try and see what it's about as well.
Yeah, cool. So tell me more then, if we're talking about people of your generation, what do you think their expectations of leadership are?
I don't know if they've got expectations. I feel they're somewhat looking for guidance or just an ability to show themselves to their capabilities. I think some people, and it comes back to sports, some people are happy taking on the mantle of being a leader. Others are very happy just rocking up and doing what they need to do. And I've never wanted to force or encourage anyone to do something they don't want to do. I'm always very open to saying, would you like to do this? I think I still need to get better at phrasing that to a point of view that they don't feel obligated that they have to, because coming from a point of view that you're the boss, and I don't like being called that, but it's honestly the title that you get. If you ask someone, oh, would you like to give this a go or try this? Everyone's always going to say yes, instead of having potentially the confidence to say, I'm not actually interested in doing that. And it's sort of that divergence there where I'm trying to figure out, okay, yes, I think they can do this, and pulling a coin from Paul's podcast, I believe that they can get there, but simultaneously they may not want to anyway. And trying to figure that out is my constant battle at the moment, which love it, but it's you've got to keep, it never stops, keeps going.
So walk me through that. So you've got someone who you know has potential and they can't see that potential for themselves. What's the strategy behind that? You know, as a leader, you really want them to see it. What do you do? And I recognise that everyone's different, but what's your thought process, just for our audience out there, just to gauge your thinking?
Well, instantly, I'm always, from the get-go, communication line is always open. So I'm not expecting you to pick this up on the go. I say it, I've been there, I still am there. The expectation that you've done a degree or you've worked somewhere else instantly means you know exactly how to do it in this given circumstances is quite frankly rubbish. I think everyone's got skills, but everyone's constantly learning on the job. So therefore, if I'm assuming that they know exactly how to execute a new project or a new strategy or a new sales meeting, I'm always happy to go, look, whenever in doubt, give me a call. It's not, I'd rather you call me or message me or email me than spending excess amounts of time trying to figure it out. Yes, critical thinking is absolutely encouraged here and it's a must. But if you're sitting there doing your head in trying to figure out something that if you ask someone quickly and they can provide a solution, that's a much better outcome than sitting there and kicking the can down the road trying to figure it out, wasting time when all you could have done was potentially just ask someone, not even me. I say ask the team. If it's about a new project, there's people in our organisation that have done it. They can help you. If they can't, the running joke I have is that you can call the adult Pro Max, which is me. So then there's always that ability that if something isn't happening and you can't figure it out, I'm always there. And if I can't figure it out, then what's the next pivot that we can do to solve it? Because there's always going to be something that is outside the rule book that we have to just figure out on the fly. So
in your leadership experience, has there ever been a moment where you've gone, oh, I could have handled that better? You happy to share a scenario?
I mean, there's constantly ones. I don't dwell on it. For me, I'm there's always every single day something goes wrong. It might be audio interference on the practical side. It might be post-production delivery. It might be the way in which someone's articulated something, even hosting a podcast. And it's not something going, oh, I wouldn't have done that. I go, okay, how can I provide a little bit of feedback so next time it's a bit better? And I've always learned from those mistakes, and I sort of say, failure is a good thing. If you make the failure multiple times, it's more a reflection on learning, training, awareness, and what can I do to support them so it doesn't happen. But then that's also a reflection on me as a leader, is if that keeps happening consistently across multiple inductions and multiple team, then I've got to figure out, okay, what do I do to make that next bit easier for the next person so that doesn't happen? But yeah, my approach when someone makes a mistake, never raise my voice. I never get angry. I'm always calm. Try and get them to sort of talk through their thought process so they can almost self-reflect as to what may or may not have triggered it. In some scenarios, they may have gotten there slightly late and the guest has gotten there quite early, so there's less time for setup, or maybe there's an export setting. There's so many different variables, but getting them to self-reflect in the moment I found is quite helpful.
Yeah.
And that's the way that I've gone, all right, I'm not doing anything other than being an incubator for you to understand that, I actually know what I did wrong and this is what I can do next time to make sure I don't do it. So.
Yeah, great. So tell me more, because it's not just that you inspire as you lead, but you do a lot with the community. Can you share with us some of the projects that you have and how you execute your leadership within the community work that you do?
Well, some of the projects, and by history, I used to work in a sports centre where I always ran kids' birthday parties and I just loved it. And there's a moment that sticks out with me. I was 13, I was very young working it, and one of the kids was maybe 11 or 10. And they said, how old are you? 13. It's like, oh, my brother's 1 year older than you. And, oh, why should I listen to you? And from a very, very early age, in a position where you're there for a kid's birthday party, you're trying to be fun, but also you can't have kids behaving like hooligans on sports because there's injuries, there's parents watching, and at the end of the day, you just have to control it. Now, in a different sense, I'm getting to do that, but with school students learning how to podcast. And it's quite rewarding for me watching various kids, no matter what their skill set are or their foundation learning is, their ability to just dive into this world and go, I'm fascinated in sports, or I'm fascinated in food or video games, and watching their creativity flourish without the need to dive into a phone or an iPad or almost copy each other, and letting each of them be completely unique and individual. And it sticks with me, the first cohort that we did. I mean, I know it helps people with their speech and their delivery and how they ask a question and their ability to listen. But when they said that students that weren't confident to public speak or take charge or even help, talking about that and watching those kids do that, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, because that's what, I think is quite powerful. And I hope that those kids will take that to the next step.
I love the fact that that's actually touched you emotionally, because we're losing authenticity more and more in the world that we're in, and it takes a lot of courage for a leader to be authentic. So my last question for you, what's your advice for people who are engaging in startups and they are about to onboard people to help them? What's your advice about how they could lead, should lead?
Put yourself in their perspective and their shoes first. If you can't understand their positioning and what they're trying to do and their objectives first and foremost, you're never going to be able to resonate with them. And leaders have that innate ability to motivate and get people to buy in and drive fun, change, winning, all of it. But unless you understand fundamentally why that person wants it, a lot of the time it's money, it's security, it's a wage, yes, but there's other factors that help them. And unless you understand that, you're always going to pick potentially the wrong people. And I'm saying this from a full point of view that I'm still absolutely learning where this is going to go, and I'm 100% going to make those mistakes. But I'm somewhat looking forward to finding out what my ability is to react or respond, or even the person's ability to sort of pivot and adjust after that. So that would be my sort of leading advice.
Ben, thank you so much for joining us on the Show Up and Lead series. I really appreciate your insight and your authenticity.
Thank you, Nancy.